Hello, Mom and Dad Big World. So today we are actually doing our rear suspension. If we have time, we'll see. We'll do our front suspension also, but we're going to replace the rear struts, I believe, because, well, our car has over 200,000 miles and the suspension is a little bit rough and in need of a change. So one of the things we're going to start off first is we need to jack up the rear end of the car first. So if you take a look right here, you'll notice it is actually on the hitch. We actually replaced our toe. We have a tow hook, which is what we normally jack up on, but we actually are jacking it up on the tow hitch right there. And then another thing to remember, which is why we've got this lug wrench and our second time recording this, is you'll want to make sure that you loosen up your lug nuts to your wheels before we jack it up. And then when we do have it jacked up in the air, we are going to put these jack stands on both sides of the rear and put them on the jack points. And then also, as a precaution, make sure you chock your front wheels to make sure that the car does not roll forward as you have it up in the air. So very, very important steps. Let's get started. All right, so if your car does have locking lug nuts, make sure you do have the key too, because it'll make it much easier, and you want to double check that before you actually start to make sure. But all we're doing right now is just loosening the lug nut before it goes up in the air.
So we are using a 3-ton heavy-duty quick lift forward floor jack. This car is not 3 tons. We just like to make sure that we have an extra heavy-duty equipment for all of our vehicles, whether we're working on our little car or some trucks. You'll see the tires are off the ground right there. Dennis had already loosened the lug nuts, as you saw previously. So now he's going to remove the tire. And most cars won't have a locking key. It depends on the market that you live in. We've had locking keys since we bought this car brand new. My other set of tires, my non-winter tires, are a 16-inch HPF Honda factory rim that at the time we were a little worried in some areas might leave it up on jack stands. All right, so the tire is out of the way. Giving us free range of movement to access what we need to. Dennis is going to get over here with the jack stand and put it right where you would normally jack up your car. And I'm going to get in here a little closer and show you what that jack point looks like. Because once we get both sides up in there, we're going to actually remove that rear jack. So while Dennis is taking off the other tire, I want to talk a little bit about jack stand safety. So all the newer jack stands have a pin with them that keeps this from actually falling down. So when your jack stand is in place, please make sure your pin is in place. It keeps this handle from lifting and or dropping and changing the height of your car while you work on it. All right, so both the jack stands are up underneath the car where they're supposed to be on their points. And Dennis is now going to loosen this 3-ton jack. And you'll see the car is now sitting strictly on jack stands. All right, so before we removed the rear bolt that holds the shock in, we're going to jack up the suspension to take the pressure off of that shock. So you see the arm lifting up, so the shock now has pressure removed from it. Dennis is going to take a 17mm socket ratchet combo, and we have a little cheater pipe braking bar that we use to help break things loose. Gives you leverage in tight spaces. There's the bolt, holds the bottom in. Now we're gonna go up top and show you how you get the top out. All right, so in the corner of each car is a plastic cover. It's a dust cap, cosmetic cover. If you lean your seat forward, it's easy to get to it for video purposes, but Dennis is actually coming in straight to the hatch. We got an open pass-through 14 millimeter, which is the same as the bottom bolt. And we have a 5 millimeter Allen that's gonna go right down the middle to hold it through. So you'll see
So I've got this set to lock, to tighten, this set to loosen. So the 5 millimeter that goes inside is tightened, this is on loosen, just to hold, pretty much like hold it in place. We're just loosening this up, the bolt lifting, because now we have a gap right down here. And take this out. Drop that out with a pair of pliers if we need to. So you got this nut right here, and look at the flange right here. Make sure that goes back in exactly the same way. This is marked here in red, so make sure that's on top, goes directly over top just like this. And then you've got here, which we're gonna grab, the flathead again. This is rubber, so be very careful not to damage it. But I'm just loosening it up, and you can see it come up right there. Same way, take a look. It's got a little taper to it, like it's got a crown. So we're gonna keep all these together, just like that, and then we're gonna take off. Remember, we had to grab this 5 mil right from the top, but we're gonna remove it from the bottom.
So I'm gonna come out here and around so you can see what Dennis is gonna do to pull that shock down and out. So he's pushed it down by hand. There's no pressure on it. And that is the removal of the old shock combo. That is the upper internal bushing. You'll notice it's cone shaped as well. That's how it went on. The new one should come with a new one of those. So
There's like no pressure on here.
yeah, see him moving it by hand, you guys? He shouldn't be able to move that by hand. This is supposed to hold a 15,000 or 1,500 pound car. My shocks were gone. All right, pause here for you. Grab out the new parts. Here we have the new part. Complete assembly. Then it's just taking it out of the bag. Careful to hold it away from you so like it doesn't damage you at all. You'll notice this end that goes up in the car has all of the new hardware on it.
It's already coming apart.
So that's just a cap. So it has a new nut, bolt, both the bushings, and the shock and suspension. So now we're just gonna do the reverse and put this in. So Dennis is removing the screw from the top, the dust cap. That stays on there, as well as one of those bushings goes right back up in there. So,
And what we could always do is just match it.
make sure that it's right.
So what I did not see was this. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's there.
It's so dirty. It's right here. So match this. And then this was angled down. So the slope is to the bottom. slope to the bottom because you can see this was getting dirty. Slope to the bottom, the curvature. All right, so before we get this mounted back up, I've seen it online say we should actually be able to push this down 3 to 5 times before. So there's one. I'm gonna repeat this 2 more times, do a total of 3 times before we get this back up.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is let's get this part up top.
So Dennis is gonna feed this through right here, and then he's gonna hand it to me from the inside. So I'm gonna lean out of his way. I've got the old hardware up here next to the new hardware. So this is the new bushing for the top. It replaces this old one. It has this piece in the bushing. The old shock had that built into the pole that we pulled down. So I'm pushing that down and in. This piece is going to concave up opposite this. And the reason being is this one is slightly concaved up. It's almost flat, but it has a lip that's pointing up. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. I've got a whole new locking nut right here that I'm going to push down and try and get threaded. One-handed's a little challenging. Can you push up and give me a little pressure then? Give me as much throw as you can. There we go. That's threading by hand. This new bolt hardware is actually a 16 as to where that was a 14, so I had to stop, grab a different socket ratchet. So Dennis is going to put that on there. The bottom is now in the tighten mode.
So this one we're going to put in a loosen position while this is tightening. But we're not going to tighten this up just yet. We're just going to leave this in place because we're going to hook up the bottom one right now. This in place right here. I can see the hole here on the other side, but it's not quite lined up. So I'm going to bring up this shock and bring it up a little bit to where we can line it up. You saw I was just able to slide it in there. And because this bolt is nice and pointy, that is a good thing. So we're going to take this right here, 14 millimeter, make sure we are on tighten. All right, so here we are towards the end where it's getting a little bit tighter on me. And so if you've got a torque wrench, what you're going to want to do is make sure this is set to 40 pounds. When we had loosened it, no way was it at 40, as we had to use a braking bar to get it tightened. But 40 pounds is what it says this should be, and we'll go back up top to tighten that. That one should be at 22 pounds. 22 pound-feet of torque. All right, so again, when you tighten it up, make sure this 5 millimeter Allen head is set to loosen, this is set to tighten, and you're going to want 22 pound-feet of torque right up top. Yep. After we double check the torque, we'll put the dust cap back on here, and then we'll do this again for the other side.
Something I should mention is that you should always replace your shocks and struts in pairs. So don't just do one side, even if it's blown out. Buy the pair, do both sides. But that is how you replace the rear shocks on a 2007 Honda Fit. All right, so it has been jacked up already. We've got both sides replaced. What I mean by jacked up is we put this under here. We've removed the jack stand. So all we're going to do now is lower the car back down. Very, very slowly, as we don't want to put that hit of pressure on the shock. So you can see how slowly we're coming down with it. And all this is the control of the jack. There we are. Fully down. It actually was not too bad at all. Very, very doable depending on how skilled you are. Actually, I don't think you even have to be super duper skilled or have a super duper amount of strength, because those shocks were indefinitely blown. And you can get shocks pretty much everywhere, whether it be your local Honda dealership, online,
They're very easily accessible, and you can definitely do it yourself. Again, we're not professionals. We just showed you how we did it, and hopefully this helped you out. If it did, you know what to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We're going to do the front ones here next and on a different video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.